beautiful friends. It's Amanda here, and today we're talking about this new palette release from Lethal Cosmetics. This is the Mellow Grove palette. It is currently available. This one's priced at 45 US dollars. It has the same shape, size, layout, feeling of the Midnight Serenade palette. So this is Midnight Serenade. This was one of my favorite palettes of the year last year. You can see these are definitely giving two sides of the same coin, and the color stories inside reflect that. These actually work really beautifully together. I do think that some of the red tones are kind of similar. Doesn't seem like an extension palette, but more of like I said, two sides of the coin, a different version of the theme instead of an extension of the theme. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But I do think this is more of an either-or situation. I don't think necessarily you need both. You don't need any palettes ever, right? I know. Let's not get into semantics. But I do think this is more of an either-or situation. While I like both, I do think there is some notable overlap in some of these shades. That being said, I do really like both of these, and I think it's probably pretty obvious that this is a color story that I enjoy and I'm drawn to because I created a similar color story with my collab palette from last year, the Flora Story palette. These would be great companions. They're definitely not dupes. They're not the same. I think you would struggle to find more than one or two shades that were even comparable, especially once they're swatched. Flora Story is more color forward and there are more brights. Mellow Grove is more muted. It has more of a neutral vibe to it. And Flora Story is ratio-wise a lot more green heavy. Mellow Grove, out of 15 shades, only 3 of them are greens. Flora Story is literally 50% green. So I think that these would work beautifully together. I would never say they're dupeable. I would say they're more of the sisters, not twins type of idea. I would love to use these together. I think they round each other out really nicely. But with all that being said, this is a color story that I'm drawn to, obviously because my collaboration palette was really purples and greens with neutrals. This is neutrals with some purples and greens, in my opinion. So they all flow nicely together. And I think I'm getting ahead of myself now. Typically, I save my opinions and my reviews for the end. So before I start just spilling all of my thoughts right up front here, let's go ahead and take a close-up look at this palette, its packaging. I'm going to show you some swatches, and I'll also show you the eye look that I'm wearing today. But I did want to mention, I have already done an eye look with this palette on my channel a couple of videos back. In my testing new spring makeup video, I did a more neutral and pinky type of look. So today I wanted to go for a little bit more of a smoky and greens type of look. So I'll show you that tutorial and then I'll wrap up the rest of my thoughts at the end. Here's a close-up look at the cover art. These Lethal palettes do come in a sleeve, so there is information on the back of the sleeve that's not on the actual palette itself. Just keep that in mind if you need to reference ingredients and things like that. You want to hang on to the sleeve here. And just a reminder that this palette and all Lethal palettes are cruelty-free and vegan. Now I'm sliding off that sleeve I was talking about. This is a cardboard palette and it has a magnetic closure. There is a mirror inside, and then this background kind of makes it hard to photograph the palette colors because it has this reflective rainbow iridescence, but it's really fun to look at, so not too mad about that. Now we have 15 eyeshadow shades laid out here in 3 rows of 5 or 5 columns of 3, depending on how you want to look at this palette. Of the 15 eyeshadow shades in this palette, we have 7 that are true mattes. There are 2 on the bottom row that are mattes with shimmer. So the pale green and the baby bubblegum pink are mattes with a little bit of glitter in them. Then the remaining 6 shadows have all different shimmer textures. Some have a little bit of that duochrome flip. I also want to point out that the shade Halcyon in the center row there has a very unique texture among the metallics in this palette. It's one of those super fine, really, really smooth, multi-chrome type of shadows that has a lot of shifty glitter in it. It's very similar in texture to the Lost Library shadows from Fantasy Cosmetica, if you've touched any of those. I'm sure there's other reference points too, but that was the first thing that came to mind for me. So I love the mix of textures. We have some different depths, neutrals, and colors. I always enjoy a good mixture of all of those things. And I did just want to go ahead and show you some side-by-side swatches with the two palettes that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Just for your reference point, you can see here there are some colors that are kind of similar, but when you get into the nitty-gritty of undertones, textures, shifts, things like that, none of them are exactly dupes. Some of the colors do look like they go together, but none of them are the same. And I also just wanted to show you the comparison of Midnight Serenade for reference. Since I talked about it, you can see some of those red and reddish maroon matte shades are pretty similar across both of these palettes, but in general, very, very different vibes. And I could see these mixing pretty well together. These two would actually make a fun little palette bingo, in my opinion. Now, I want to show you the tutorial for the eyeshadow look that I'm wearing today. I just want to remind you, I'll link the video for the other eye look I've done with this palette down in the description box if you want to see more of this Mellow Grove in action. But I love the eye look that I did today, even more than the first time that I tried this palette on camera. So I'm starting with this brown shade Ponder in the crease. This is a pretty warm brown shade. I think I could pull the more grayish neutral tones from the top row if I wanted to do this look again with a more cool toned spin. So I'm using a big fluffy Singe Beauty brush to really blend out and blow out that brown crease shade. And this is just laying the groundwork because I am going to use this deeper, more purpley brown shade called Quiver, and I'm going to pack that on the outer part of my eye. I wanted a really high contrast, kind of two-tone lid to make this pastel green that I'm going to use later on really, really pop. I knew it was going to go one of two ways. It was either going to be really impactful or it was going to look kind of crazy. I think it ended up looking pretty good, but this dark matte shade blended and applied so wonderfully. I think that shades like this can often go a little patchy, a little dry feeling, and I just had a great experience blending this one, so I was really, really impressed with it. I love a color like this. I think it lends a lot to this palette, and I found that it layered really, really nicely with both mattes and shimmers, so I was impressed with the performance. These dark purpley toned mattes, they can be quite hit or miss for me, even among reliable, good brands. Now I'm going to take the shade Lagoon. This is that sort of pistachio green shade. It does have a lot of glitters, and because I applied it with my finger instead of with a brush that I could tap off, I think a lot of that shimmer really stuck with the shadow through the application. I'm going for a very, very shimmery lid look today, so that doesn't bother me at all. But in general, mattes with glitter are not typically my favorite type of eyeshadow, not my favorite type of formula. But we're going to remedy all that anyway because I'm going to take this super cool, very shifty green, pink. I can't even really put my finger on how this shade looks, but I'm packing that right over the Lagoon shade, and we're just going full shimmer lid as usual for me. I really could have just left it at that because this is really quite pretty on its own, but I cannot be stopped when it comes to putting shimmer on the lids. So I took a little bit of this duochrome shade called Sanctuary. This has a green brown, very warm toned green brown flip, but when I layered it on top of that deep purpley brown shade, I think that it really muted the shift, and it just made everything flow together really nicely. Now I'm adding some more of that green combo to my lower lash line. I definitely felt very woodland fairy vibes from this eye look, which I love. And I think that really encapsulates the vibe of the cover art and the whole idea of this palette anyway. So I think they nailed it. Then I just curled my lashes and added some of this Essence mascara. And that's my finished look. I almost wanted to put a bright green liner in the lower waterline. But first of all, I'm wear testing a foundation today. So I didn't want to do anything that was going to accidentally cause my eyes to water. And I just really was happy with how this turned out. So I was afraid to keep going and ruin the vibes. But I do think this eye look would be really, really cool with a soft pistachio green liner in the waterline, or maybe even just turn up the volume and do like a smoky eyeliner and add a little half lash if I was really gonna go for the romantic vibes. But I had a lot of fun creating this look and it ended up even better than I thought it was gonna be. So I'm happy. As I said at the beginning of the video, I really like this color story. This is a set of shades that I am particularly drawn to. I think this is a lovely spring release. I've been a longtime fan of the Lethal formulas, and every brand has their hits and misses. I have had a few misses from the brand as well, and this is not one of them. I think both of these perform similarly well. And while I really like both of these, and I will obviously continue to use this, I do still slightly prefer the color story of the Midnight Serenade palette. That's just purely a personal preference type of thing. Main complaint about this palette was that some of these reddish shades looked too similar, and I kind of think that this experiences that a little bit. These two, while not the exact same shade, I think they're too similar. I think we could have easily swapped one of these out as well. But in this palette, there's only two. So, an improvement from my complaint from the Midnight Serenade palette. This one just has this gorgeous purple, some really rich jewel tones, and those are things that I personally like to wear and am drawn to. So that's why I do tend to slightly prefer this one. Actually, I can see these working pretty nicely together if I want to do a little bit of a lighter look. I can pull in some of the mattes from this palette, still keep my sparkly jewel tones from Midnight Serenade. That's probably something that I'll do quite a lot in the future. If Midnight Serenade was too vampy, a little bit too deep, too rich, then maybe this is going to be a great alternative. And it is really lovely. It has the spring vibes. A couple of the shimmers in here are so, so pretty. I love this green shimmer. The purple one that I wore in my previous video is so stunning and silky and sparkly and gorgeous. There's a little silver in here. I love a silver shadow. This is more of a muted kind of brown-based silver, which isn't my personal silver preference. I like a foily bright silver, but I do think this is going to be a great everyday, very comfort zone type of color for a lot of people. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it's lovely. It's going to be flattering. So this one has a lot of appeal and it performs really beautifully for me. So I have no complaints, even though it is still going to be second fiddle to Midnight Serenade for me. Go check out this video if you want more information about it. I'll link it in the description box. But in general, I'm impressed. I think it's pretty, it's cute, it's fun. I think a lot of people are going to like it. And I would love to know what you think about this palette. Are you interested? Are you going to pick this one up? Are you like me? Maybe a little bit more drawn towards Midnight Serenade instead? I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Let's do a little lip gloss touch-up, shall we? I have like 4 different text conversations going on right now, which is funny because I'll go days without really texting anybody but my husband. And maybe my sister's a funny meme here and there, but then When it rains, it pours, and then I'll have a bunch of people having conversations with me all at once. Sorry if I can't keep up because if that coincides with a filming day, there's only so much attention span to go around, okay? Oh, and don't forget to use Teresa's code. The code is garbage. I don't know of anybody else who has a lethal code. If you've ever found any other lethal codes, let me know. I just always use Teresa's. She's the one that got me interested in the brand. So use code garbage at checkout. I don't have an affiliate with them, but my friend does, and I'm out here to promote that code all day long. My eyeshadow philosophy tends to be, can we put more shimmer on top of it? Obviously. I'm wear testing the Face Bond foundation today, and it's going so-so. From this distance, I think it looks fine. When you get close up, though, there are some cracks in the veneer, if you know what I mean. Also, this Mellow Grove palette artwork is really, really pretty, but I think this Midnight Serenade one's cooler. People are always surprised to find out that I'm secretly a bad bitch. Low key. You don't expect it. But then I show up covered in tattoos. People are like, "Oh, that's fun." I love surprises, so I like to be a surprise. You know what I'm saying? Let's ask the audience, okay? For those of you who watched to the end, who are my real MVPs, who watched the outtakes and the bloopers, do you like surprises or not? I think both are valid. I like surprises because I think that it's fun and I don't need to know everything all the time, which is surprising considering the amount of anxiety that I have. But I know a lot of people don't like surprises at all, not even good surprises, and I totally understand that too. I think that's a very, very valid point of view. I get it. So I want to know, are you a surprise person or not a surprise, or you don't care? You never thought about it. That's okay too. There's always a third option. Okay, gotta go finish my face bond video and I'm gonna go hang out with my family. So I will see you later. Thanks for watching. You're so cute and sweet and smart and special and important. And you deserve to have the sparkliest eyelids that you want. Or all matte, if that's what you prefer. But really, why though? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I better go. I love your face. Bye.